Hello, everyone. This is Jeannie White, and I am the producer of this show for Holly Brown and her guest, Victoria Conwell. And this is a cancer series that Holly is doing, and she's talking to different individuals. So I just want to bring it over and pass it over to Holly. Here you go, Holly.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you so much. Hi, Victoria. How are you?
I'm great, Holly. How are you?
Good. So maybe just to start, you can just give a general encounter of your experience when you were diagnosed and whatnot.
Okay. So I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma when I was 37. I went for a routine physical with my OBGYN, and at that time, they asked me to go for a baseline mammogram because I had some dense tissue. It was then later figured out, or during that baseline, that they had some spots that they couldn't really decipher. So I went forward and did some biopsies of the areas, and it turned out that it was in fact cancer. So from there, I just went through and did as many treatments as I could. I had 3 lumpectomies back to back when they weren't able to get clean margins. I decided to go forward and do a bilateral mastectomy. But before that, they had done some additional testing and found out that I had a high risk of reoccurrence. So I went through and I did only 4 rounds of chemotherapy in between August and October of 2013. I had my bilateral mastectomy on December 10th. I received test results on the 26th of December showing that my cancer was still present and had, in fact, spread into my lymph nodes. So I made the decision at that point to enter into radiation. I started radiation therapy in February of 2014. I had 35 treatments, but I had to cut the treatments short for a while because I ended up with a skin infection due to the bilateral mastectomy and not having any kind of feeling or sensation in my chest area. So once that was cleared up, I was able to resume my radiation treatments. And I finished all of my radiation and cancer treatments, I guess you'd say, in early April of 2014. And then from there, it was just some, I guess, maintenance treatments. I did breast reconstruction. I just had follow-up appointments, things like that in terms of my journey.
Okay. And maybe, so you touched a little bit on the skin reactions and how it affected that you had to stop the radiation treatment. Was there any help offered in regards to the skin reactions or how to, take care of them or make them heal or anything to do preventive so that you could continue with the medication so that and to stop it from becoming worse?
Well, when I started in the radiation, I was told that there was a pretty good chance that I would end up with a radiation burn, which is what led to the cellulitis.
Okay.
But I didn't realize that I was getting a burn because I couldn't feel anything. So by the time that I had mentioned something to my radiation oncologist, it was a little too far gone, but I did have an exit wound from the radiation, which they gave me some weird gel to put on it. But all that really did is like putting aloe on a regular sunburn. It didn't really treat it. It more soothed it than anything else. But I didn't really have anything in terms of a treatment that I could use for my skin while I was going through treatment.
Okay.
It actually wasn't until I met you at the cancer support group in Norwell that I realized that there were options.
Okay, that was what I was going to ask you next. How you ended up hearing about us, and maybe you could just touch on some of the services you received from us.
Yeah, so I through the journey that I went through, I was referred over to the cancer support community over in Norwell, and I went to one of the seminars they had that night that you and Melissa were putting on. And that's really where I heard about you and about the treatments and the products that you offered. And that's kind of how I took the first few steps in getting proactive in fixing my skin. Because obviously with the chemotherapy, my skin was dried out from the chemotherapy and then the radiation on top of it. So I was pretty itchy and flaky all over with the burns. So that's really how I became connected with you and Fab.
Okay. And when you attended the presentation, just so people know, you were my first client that I worked for. So I had just started out, and I was knowledgeable. I had gotten my aesthetic license, but now I've become so much, since we've encountered so many people and helped so many people. But tell me what your feelings were when you were attending the presentation. Were you surprised that something like this was available? Did you, what were your thoughts?
Well, initially I thought this is really going to help my skin because I feel kind of crummy. And no matter what I would put on, I would have reactions just because of all of the medicines and chemicals and toxins that were in my body. So, if I used an over-the-counter product that's supposed to be, say, like all natural and gentle, something in there somehow would react. I remember putting lotion on my hands. I was at work and I was on a guided walking tour. And my hands got really dry. So I had just put some lotion on that I had used previously before I had gotten sick. And within 25 minutes, both my hands had swelled up to the point of I went and saw the doctor. And it was just a reaction due to the product ingredients and what was in my body at the time. So it really started to make me realize that I can't just use things that you would find, say, at the store, because my body is different now.
Right.
So that was one of the things that kind of dawned on me, obviously having the reaction to my hands, but then hearing you and Melissa talk about the essential oils and the products that you were using that were clean and natural, and realizing that that's something that I would like to try to comfort myself, because dry skin and sores are very painful and itchy. And then when you're trying to combat them, and what you're using to combat them is making it worse, you feel even more miserable. And I already was a little self-conscious about the way in which that I looked. And now I had, big red swollen hands. So that was kind of one of the things that really light dawned, was that there's something out there that can help kind of minimize the effects of the medication that's trying to rid my body of the cancer.
Yeah. So that's what we do a lot of education on. We try to tell people that, people might say, like, what's the difference in the products or whatnot, and how unregulated the skincare industry is. And it drives me crazy that people are recommending products for people who are undergoing treatment for cancer that contains ingredients that either causes cancer or, like you said, interferes with the treatment and causes a whole other more reactions on top of what the person is already experiencing. So, that is something that unfortunately you were able to learn when you were going through it. A lot of people don't understand until it actually happens to them. So that's why we try to do a lot of education to notify people of that, and that you really want to be cognizant of what you are putting on your skin. And so what impacted Looking and Feeling Fab and the services have on you in regards to your cancer journey? Did you feel that it was kind of like a respite for you and a way, or and it actually helped with the skin reactions you were encountering, or what type of impact did it have?
So I think the first impact, it gave me some sort of normalcy at one point, because before my new normal, I was getting facials like every other woman. I was getting manicures and I was getting pedicures and lotions and perfumes and all of that. And then once I was diagnosed, all of that came to a screeching halt. No more massages, no more manicures, pedicures, facials, things of that nature. And then when I was introduced to you and Melissa, I was able to get those treatments again. I was able to get that facial and that shoulder massage. And it gave me that bit of normalcy that was missing for a year or so. And it also provided me with skin care and skin products that I knew I could use. I had scars. I had multiple reconstructive surgeries, and each time there's a new scar. So I had drains, and so there are scars, and I could use these products on these scars. The aromatherapy, when I would be overwhelmed with kind of my lot in life at that moment, 37, married, 2 small children at the time. I was able to put these products in my bathtub, in my shower, and kind of feel a bit more normal, but also know that what's going in my body is not going to harm my body either. So it definitely gave me some feeling normal in my life when nothing was normal in my life at that time.
Good. Also, just to kind of touch on the majority of our services are at no cost for people, which, I'm sure you would agree that having a serious illness like cancer impacts the financial situation in the house. And so you had received the services like pretty much all of our clients do at no cost. And so did you feel that was an extra bonus to kind of relieve having the stress of having to pay for something else medical that maybe wasn't covered by insurance?
100%. So I was working when I was diagnosed. I had actually just gotten hired. And I had, thankfully, I continued to work for them, but I would be out, stretches of time, 2 and 3 weeks at a time. And it does take a financial hit, like if you're not working, you're not getting paid. So it's nice to know that these services can be provided during a trying time. I feel that, sometimes when it rains, it pours, and it's nice to have a little bit of a rainbow, even as small as it might be to some people. It's a pretty big thing to other people to know that, for an hour, I kind of get pampered as though I'm not the cancer patient anymore. I'm just Victoria, and I'm getting a facial, and I don't have to worry about, scraping together the $50 or $60 plus tip to do it, when you would otherwise, not thought anything of it. But when you're going through it and you go from a 2-income household to a 1-income household, it's a nice treat.
Particularly when you have children too. I mean,
So my boys were 2 and 4, so we still had 2 and 4-year-old expenses.
Right. So, what was my next question going to be? So, did other people take notice, or did your doctors or anybody like that take notice that of the changes that were happening to your skin once you had joined the program?
Yes. So all of my doctors, from my surgeon all the way down to the radiation oncologist, had mentioned about how well my skin was healing. So obviously I would still see the surgeon. I still saw the plastic surgeon, the medical oncologist, the radiation oncologist, and everybody wanted to see me from tip to tail. So I, would be showing my skin multiple times a week to multiple doctors, and every single one of them would comment on how well my scars were healing, how soft my skin was, how clear my skin was. And I would constantly just attribute it back to the services and the products that I would be receiving through you in your foundation. And they just, every time I saw them, it was just one more, your skin looks so great. Your skin looks so great. What are you using? Type of questions. So all of my doctors definitely noticed a difference. Yeah.
Good. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about, I know sometime after you had finished with your treatments and whatnot, you did develop a little bit of lymphedema in your arm.
Yeah.
And I know that you had saw Christina for the manual lymphatic drainage. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the impact that had on helping that condition.
Yeah. So I always joke that I went big with my cancer. I did everything. I mean, I got diagnosed. I had all the surgeries, all of the, chemotherapy, all of that. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And it gave me some lymphedema, which is a byproduct of no longer having a fully functioning lymphatic system. So up in the right quadrant of my body is where I was affected because I did the radiation. I still have physical possession of my lymph nodes. They just don't work. So my right arm doesn't flush out the fluid as well. So I had once again turned to you and just said, what can I do for this? And you had Christina, who does an amazing job of doing a manual drain. I don't see her as often as I would like, just with scheduling and everything happening. But I've gone to her, I think, 3 times now. Once before I went on vacation to Washington, D.C., where we walked for 6 days in the blistering hot sun, full humidity. And I never once had an issue with the swelling in my arm because she was able to flush the fluid that I had. I actually even got myself a compression sleeve, and it doesn't work nearly as good as having Tina do the lymphatic massage and drain. It's just again, it's opened up another one of those things when I can't put my ring on my finger,
Right.
because it's swollen, or my hand hurts because it's swollen, or the cuff on my the top of my sleeve hurts because my arm is swollen. It's one of those things that, you want to feel normal again, that there are these services that can help you feel normal with your new normal. So it's, honestly, like the services that I've received are just top notch. Like
Excellent.
Yeah. And I would like more people to be able to know that they're there too.
Yeah.
I was lucky that I had the encounter with you, but I think some people don't always know because it's a lot when you're in treatment.
Yep. And so that kind of brings us to the next question I have. So what advice would you give to somebody who may be newly diagnosed, that called you up and said, Victoria, what do I need to take care of? What should I do to prepare? Would the taking care of the skin be one of the top issues for you, or what type of advice would you give to them?
Yeah. So I think in hindsight, I'm blessed that I'm almost 7 years out. And I think in hindsight, the first thing I would tell somebody newly diagnosed would be to take a breath. It's overwhelming, but the guidance of your doctors is going to get you, where you need to be. And then to really think about what you're putting in your body has lasting effects for your skin. I think everybody knows it's the biggest organ in our body or on our body. But it's also the most overlooked, I think, when we're in treatment. I think we're so focused on the finish line that we worry, is my hair going to grow back? Are my fingernails going to grow back? Am I going to get the taste buds back? But all the while, your skin is flaking off. You get a cut and you get this scar, or you have these scars, and how do you treat them? Because some people's cancer is more visible than others. Mine's mostly covered up with a shirt, but there are times when you're wearing something and scars will be seen. So I definitely would say, take a breath. Your doctors will get you to where you need to be, but you also need to think about your whole body and not just that one little bit of your body.
Right.
So cancer affected my breast, but it affected my whole body.
Right.
And I also would let them know, I mean, I'm a pretty positive person, but I would also let them know like that my skin issues honestly have never really gone back to what they were before. My skin is still very sensitive. I've always had sensitive skin, but my skin is still very sensitive to certain ingredients. I still have a burn that flares up on the back of my shoulder. When it comes to like protecting my skin when I go outside, I can't just use any average run-of-the-mill sunblock. So I think your skin, I think, is very overlooked, but it's something that you have forever and ever. And your cancer treatment kind of changes that forever and ever too.
Right, right. Yeah, so we say that when somebody undergoes treatment for cancer, their skin becomes compromised. So compromised skin is caused by anything that disrupts the normalcy, quote unquote, of the skin and how it changes the composition of it so that things affect it differently. So, unfortunately, it doesn't go back to, it will always be compromised when somebody undergoes treatment for cancer because there are such drastic skin reactions from the treatments that it just doesn't ever go back to how it was. So I know that you have kind of heard a little bit about, we did do a scientific study with pre-treating people prior to the radiation, and we've had great success with that, and it's been written up as a scientific study and being published in the medical journals and whatnot. Do you feel that if something like that was available to you prior, your skin would have ended up in better condition as opposed to the burns?
Yeah. I don't think I think like to go back to what you said, like, I think the chemotherapy would have always had some sort of lingering effect on my skin. But I think had I knew then that I could have prevented certain things, I wouldn't have had to go down some of the journeys and have some of the treatments and some of the hospitalizations and some of the medications that I needed to have to combat some of the skin issues that I ended up with. Like the biggest one, I don't think I would have ended up with cellulitis because I would have been able to recognize a burn. I would have been able to treat my skin properly. But it's just one of those, I didn't have the knowledge.
Right.
And I don't blame anybody for it. The doctors were giving me what they've always used. And obviously, some doctors are more holistic than others. I mean, I even sought acupuncture for it. And it did nothing.
Right.
The acupuncture helped other areas, but this was supposed to help alleviate some of the issues. So you definitely have some doctors that are more holistic, but a lot of them also are, if A, then B, or if B, then C. So I don't blame anybody, but I do firmly believe that had I met you and Melissa before I started my radiation, I think my outcomes would have been a lot different.
Okay, great. And and like you said, the point that we try to get across is, the doctors have a different focus, that they are trying to, treat the cancer and get rid of the cancer, which obviously is the most important part. And so we like doctors to look at us kind of as help, not as, we are there to kind of assist what they are doing. And we're happy to provide, we're completely transparent. We don't replace medical advice. So we like to work alongside with the doctors and let them know that this service is available. And, because it is a new up and coming thing, and it brings to light a whole other issue that we've been accepted by some doctors and some doctors not. But it's just going to take time for that that to come around. And thank you to people like you who can bring this information out and educate people that we are there, and that this service is available, and that you had great success with it, and we can help people. I think is also a great way to kind of get the word out. And so do you have any final thoughts to add at all?
No, not other than thank you. I mean,
great. Well, thank you so much. And also, Victoria has done some time on our board. We hope that after her crazy life with her growing up boys, when they get old enough, that she'll come back and help us to do the right thing through the charity.
You cannot get rid of me that quickly.
Okay, good. And she also, you will see Victoria a lot in a lot of our brochures and whatnot, because we do, we have deemed her the face of Fab, because she holds a special place with me, because she was one of my very first clients that I worked with. So we always like to go and have a honey-do date. So
as soon as the world opens back up.
I know. Well, thank you so much, Victoria, and thank you, Jeanne, for allowing us to educate people and get the word out.
Oh, that's terrific. I'm glad you're on. I'm sorry. All of a sudden, this grammar thing came up. Did you see? Did you feel a block or anything?
No.
Okay. No. So I hope nothing happens there. I'm telling you, it's unbelievable what happens with the internet and so forth.
Oh, I know.
I want to thank you both for having this beautiful, I think, a beautiful series that gives off a lot of information, and you'll be able to see this video on YouTube once I've stopped the broadcast. And this is Jeanne White, and I'm the producer for for Holly Brown and the Looking and Feeling Fab. And if you have any questions, you can always contact Holly Brown. I did display her email on this video, so you'll have all the information on her website, her email address, and and a phone number to get in contact with her. Thank you very much, Victoria, for coming on. This is going to be a good series. I just feel like it's unbelievable. All of a sudden, this grammar thing came up.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. What is going on?
No, I didn't notice anything.
Nope, I didn't see anything come up.
Well, I hope it doesn't show, because I don't know how I would get rid of that.
It's all a learning experience.
It certainly is a learning experience. Again, thank you both for everything. This again, Jeanne White from Social Connections on Passionate World Talk Radio. And this will be going over to Spreaker, also the audio. And Holly Brown and Skin is In, which is the title of this series, is she's on Spotify, she's on Google+. So there'll be many places you can also hear this audio. Thank you again, everyone. Stay safe, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.